I live and work in Bombay, and I have two cats as well, which help, I think, the survival in Bombay. I'm going to, can I go back? I'm going to start basically do this talk and take you through a journey of what I have done so far, and I have no idea what will happen up ahead, but I have a few things in mind. I was born in 1975 in Britain. My father was a physicist, and he used to teach at King's College, and he was an assistant professor at Oxford, and he was also an amateur photographer. He bought himself a camera and he decided to start photographing me, my family and our lives in London, and a lot of clouds for some reason. I think it was because he was travelling from India to UK often, so he would just practice photographing clouds. A lot of it is junk, if I can be rude to him. He also photographed on slide. I think it made him feel superior. That he was better than just other photographers who were photographing on film, because at that time slide was considered something superior. And it was also that he brought himself a projector. He would project slides on the wall and tell us stories about his life in Britain. When I was around 6 years old, we returned to India, and when I was 12, my father passed away of cancer. And after that, my memory of my father was relived again and again and again through storytelling through these slides. And because I would ask my mother to keep telling me the story, because as far as I was concerned, those were the happier times. And so this is a photograph he had taken. Actually, it's a self-portrait, and he would take a lot of self-portraits. He would put them on timer, and he would click and photograph me and my mother and everybody. So this is where really it began. And I remember when he passed away, and my family didn't have much money, so we decided to sell the camera. And I was very much against it, but you know, that time it was necessary to do so. So for a while until the camera got sold, I clicked photographs of, without a film, imaginary pictures of my life around me. And so I think that's where it really the idea of it began. And I'm going to go on forward just to carry the narrative on. I was brought up in Jaipur, and I went to MGD school, and these were the kind of pictures that I would see all around in school. I went to the Maharani Gayatri school, which also had a museum that had private access, that would be given access to students if you were good to the teachers and they liked you, and so they would take you to this little museum, which was in actually the school premises, that contained her paintings, photographs, objects from the palace that were confiscated before Indira Gandhi took over her riches, the Gayatri Devi's riches. But these are the pictures that I would see all around me. And one thing I knew about myself, that I had a very curious brain. I always wanted to know why. Why was one of my favorite questions. And so it would be, who are these people? I would go to my friends' houses, ask very private questions from the very beginning. Who are these people? What do they do? Is it a love marriage? Is it not a love marriage? All kinds of random questions that actually were quite embarrassing for my own family. But it helped me get to know people a little bit, or it was my way of understanding the world. And eventually I've come to realize that when people ask me why I do what I do, is because I think it's my way of trying to understand the world around me. There is no big statement. I don't want to save the world. I don't want to be the richest person on the planet. It's none of that. I do want riches, but that's not the primary purpose. But it's mainly to understand the world around me. Because one of the ways I feel I can understand is through photographs, because it was something that is there around me, and because of my own, I find it satisfying. It's very satisfying for me to see a story in a photograph. And of course, I was fascinated by Gayatri Devi's beauty, the royal family, the style, the glamour. I mean, of course, who wouldn't find it all fascinating? It was amazing. And I went to an all-girls school, and women can be quite cruel to each other. So it's true, I mean, so can men, but individually they are worse to each other. And so it was a great way to look for beauty, to aspire to look more pretty, more styled. And MGD, I in retrospect would say, was a finishing school. It was meant to create great wives. And we had dance, we had embroidery, we had SUPW, we had PT, we had yoga, all kinds of things that would eventually make great wives or great social service people. Anyway, moving ahead, so this is the kind of culture that I was exposed to. I was really interested in dance, music, I was good at both. I was not good at studies, and that was one of the problems that my family had with me, that I was academically not very bright, which is true. I mean, this is not a lie. I was not bright. But the only subject that I really did enjoy in my entire course was English literature and history. These are the two subjects I thoroughly enjoyed. And of course I took art and painting, but I mainly took it because I was good at it and it was easier to get marks. You don't have to struggle too much. And it was getting access to learn a little bit more, training your voice, at least getting some approval from everybody that okay, I was good at something, because I was actually not good at other things. So my mother sent me to a threading beauty parlor school because I was not good at anything. I went to secretary school to learn how to type and to do shorthand. I also bunked classes and go and attend to learn how the library worked. So I was very interested in cataloging systems, how the teacher worked. I was good at organizing things. I had an organized mind, which I only got to know once I started bunking classes literally to attend this. And of course, in the evenings I would go to music school and beauty parlor school, so I can actually wax your eyebrows if you like. And so this is what essentially the background is. And then I went to NIT. I got through NIT. I still actually don't know how and why I did, but it was a great way to get out of home. At 16 I left home and I went to Ahmedabad to study design. And for 2 years I had no idea what I was doing. We drew lines, we did sketches, we did color cubes, we did all kinds of weaving, ceramics, pottery, you name it, we did all of that. But I had no idea why I'm doing what I'm doing. Why am I doing this? What is it going to do eventually for me? Which eventually I actually came to some sense and some grasp. Of course, it takes a heartbreak to get busy with work. I fell in love, I got my heart broken, and then after that, I sort of, I don't know, some penny dropped that I could do things, that I could understand the world a little bit more. And then this is of course a part of, I'm just giving you a little glimpse of my life in NIT. NIT was an incredible design school in retrospect. I think it made us into, what it didn't teach is to think in ideas, but what it did give you was tools to how to express the idea. And I suppose that is what any school will do. They can't really teach you how to think in ideas. You either have an imagination and you craft it because you are that hungry, or you don't have that imagination and you become mediocre. Fortunately for me, I came from a family, part of my family was quite liberal, the other part was quite conservative. And my uncle was a big public intellectual, he was a big Hindi writer, who I remember told me that don't waste your time being mediocre. And don't waste my time being mediocre, don't waste the world's time being mediocre. And I think it's sort of, it left a big imprint on my head that I actually did not want to be mediocre at anything I did. Because the mediocre part that I had left it behind. I was even good at threading, so come on, I could do it. So anyway, this was a part of my life. We had a lot of fun. There was a lot of good education, good batchmates, lots of politics, teenage politics, being cruel to each other all the time. But we also learned a lot, and fortunately for us, we had also extremely talented seniors. So we also learned from each other a lot if the faculty was not that giving or didn't have the time or didn't have you learn a lot from each other sometimes, rather than actually just learning from formally appointed people who come to you. And a lot of them, 90% of the students, not 90, well, I'm exaggerating, I'd say 60-70% of students are actually very good at what they did. They also had the hunger to be good, they didn't want to be mediocre. And of course, we coming from NIT, we had a bit of a chip on the shoulder, we just had to justify the chip. You can't have a chip and then not be good at your work. So this is, I'll just quickly skip through. While I was studying at NIT, I also, part of my family was also in advertising. Fortunately, at that time, these were the 90s, advertising was at its peak. By peak, I mean it wasn't about it wasn't just about commerce. I mean, it was about commerce, but it also was about good work. The print was big. There were campaigns being done. People like Muhammad Khan, Adik Padam Siri were the guys from advertising at that time, the gurus, who were stickler about language. The comma had to be in the right place. The line drop would be in the right place. We would fight over 5% cyan missing in the press, or they were all fighting over the magenta, or people really fighting over language. I mean, that was the kind of passion that I saw around me during the day, at night, over drinks. It was non-stop, it went on. And so I actually was very fascinated. I wanted to get into advertising. Also, it was a cool profession. You were paid well, you were hanging out with cool people, you were thinking about ideas all the time. And I wanted to think in ideas because NIT did not give me that craft. It was a little more cerebral than maths. And I was very clear I didn't want to save the world. I did not want to save water. I did not want to save tiger. I wanted to do great campaigns, win awards, be in the glamorous job, and learn how to market things to masses. But eventually, it has paid off somehow. So this was one of the campaigns I had done, which was for surf, and this was another, this was a print campaign. At that time, print was quite alive, and we were encouraged to do work in print, coming up with ideas. The less it said, the better. The less text it had, the better. And so this was one of the ads I did. This is a campaign I did towards the end of my career in advertising, which was not particularly the end, but just towards the end, which was the Alto campaign, which I designed, came up with the line, which I only learned, I think, a month ago that it's been running for 14 years, which is a big achievement because I had no idea that it was going on still. Clearly, the cars are selling, so it was a good campaign. This was another campaign, again using thinking idea for Tony Blair and George Bush. Gradually I moved out of advertising. So in between, what happened was I got more and more ambitious, and I wanted to travel to America to get a job. And I freelanced like mad. I collected a lot of money, and I packed up my bags and I left for America to look for a job. And I stayed there for around 6-7 months in New York, traveling all over. But interestingly, the day before I got my final offer from the big branding agencies is when the 9/11 happened. So I came back with my bags packed back to India. And I, funnily enough, or coincidentally enough, got a project to work with a photo exhibition that had to be curated and created in India within actually the next 5-6 months. And I started working with this company that would do that. And we brought around 30 photographers from America to have the first 9/11 show in India. And so these were posters I started creating. I created for the exhibition. So then I started designing exhibitions, but that is where the design education paid off, which was consistency in captions, size, print, quality of print. Getting exposure to international photographers that I had never heard of before, which was something that really blew my mind because it started embedding a voice in my own head that I too had a voice of my own. If these 100 photographers or 2,000 photographers that are around the world, including India, have their own voice, then I too have my own voice. It was very simple. I didn't need to compare myself to a Raghuveer Singh or a Raghu Rai or a Dayanita Singh or any of these other achievers. They were great works, yes, but I also had my own voice and I had a point of view. But then that was the voice that sort of has started becoming louder in my mind around this, because this is when you get a grasp of what you're doing. I was also designing books, and I would decide what covers I would use on this is where the advertising education pays off, what will sell. And to take a decision to put the right-hand side picture on a cover was something that I had to fight with the client, who was very reluctant to do so. This is a picture of Zubaida taken during the shooting of Alamara, which was the first jockey film ever made in India, 1931 or 32, I think. But it was the first jockey cinema, the first time actors and actresses started jockeying. But I had to fight for this image because it was such an incredible image, and I knew it would sell, which it did, because that is when the idea of trying people, how do people buy into things? Eventually, and now of course I managed to articulate it. People will buy anything from you. You can sell them hot air in a bag of trash and they will buy it from you if they walk away feeling great. So you're selling a feeling, you're not selling the product ever. You're selling yourself, which means that they should feel good when they are with you. Or they have to feel something. They feel important, they feel pride, they feel special, they feel pretty, they feel tall, they feel strong, they feel young. I mean, it depends on what, and if you notice what all of us buy into, we are buying into a feeling. And which is how anything in the world sells. And so it's also, it'd be interesting for you to do this exercise as to why you're buying into anything. Why you're buying that Colgate, why you're buying into an artwork, why you're buying into an artist, why you're buying into a filmmaker. It depends on what they're making you feel. It's not about them, actually, it's about you. This is the other work I started doing. I started to craft my work in book design, which was something that I was fascinated with from the beginning when I was studying at NIT, but I never quite got the opportunity to craft it. And so I started working with other photographers to design their books. And the thing with design and photographs or film is that they can't exist in isolation. A logo can't exist in isolation, a photograph can't exist in just isolation, a film can't exist in isolation. There needs to be a context of where it's put. There needs to be a visiting card for a logo to make some sense. There needs to be a book or an exhibition or print or size of the print that will determine the context of the photograph. There needs to be the way a film is shown, what format, what color, what place, what location, all of these things, and what kind of audiences you're looking at. All of this will form, the context is extremely important. It's literally, again, how are you going to make people feel about your work. And so this is something that I was experimenting with color, and this photographers, photographs in my world, I feel determine where they want to be placed, how they want to be placed. They will determine whether people have asked me this, how do you decide what pictures are black and white and color? Actually the subject determines that. The subject will tell you in your brain whether this picture is an image, is a black and white or a color, and how is it being used. And this is something that you start putting, I learned from publishers of newspapers, where you decide how an essay is presented, you decide what size it's presented. If you are going to do a mixture of black and white and color photographs, there better be a very, very good reason why you're using a black and white photograph in combination with color. It cannot be just film. You have to be able to articulate it to yourself. And I started doing that quite accurately for myself. I could actually articulate my own ideas for myself. And so even things like getting down to research. The Aravan festival is huge transgender festival in Tamil Nadu, which was something that I actually didn't know about. And I got to learn a lot about it, and these were, the entire South Asian transgender community would gather in this small village in Tamil Nadu and celebrate this festival for 3 days and 3 nights. And what was interesting to me was that when I was doing a book, I needed a symbol that I could carry forward. In a book, you need a thread, like they say, the sutra dhar, one thing to carry it forward. One little thing that will tie the whole story together, because the pictures are actually quite different from each other. And in fact, there were a couple of them that were black and white. And so actually I researched and I found out that the symbol of Mercury is a symbol of transgender communities. Because Mercury is half man, half woman. Did I do something to this mic? It's okay. So, Mercury is half man, half woman. 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 Hal It's slightly muffled. Anyway, can you hear me? Or is it muffled? Louder. Anyway, this is the book I started doing. I designed the Arawan book for the United Nations. And because they were quite actively involved in spreading awareness about HIV, about sexual health, and about the community living lifestyle, economy, all kinds of things. And so therefore it's actually started. We printed this, we printed around, I think, 1,000 copies. And these are pictures taken by a photographer called Anusha Yadav, who's actually a photography teacher in Delhi now. These were the other books. Video art in India was something APJ group had started a video art gallery in Delhi in a very, very large space. And we invited some of the best international artists of video art to come to India and to do this entire show. And then eventually they wanted to make a book because video art suddenly started selling. And it was one of the most fascinating things on how there are a lot of artists now who started indulging and creating works in video art. So this was working with a lot of different fascinating people's works. And this book took us 6 months from start to finish because there was, that book I can try to say, there's not a single error in this book. Not a comma is out of place, not a color is out of place, because now time has passed, so the black is not as black. But it was quite a task to do that. These were the other kinds of books I started doing. I started working with a lot of artists' works. I would also do corporate books, again, storytelling through books. I started to specialize in it, and I do a lot of books for corporates, but eventually, of course, I've come to conclusions on what sells and what doesn't sell has changed from the time when print was king, and when people would read a lot more. And I would recommend people very different things from what I would recommend earlier. This is during my advertising days. This was also the time when I suddenly started getting into, I moved back from design into advertising because I needed a larger paycheck. And I was very interested in then working with more people. Actually, I wanted to have more fun, I think. It was primarily a move that I wanted to just have more fun because things were getting a little too serious and far too cerebral for me during the design phase. Or maybe it was that time and the kind of people I was working with, but I needed to get back into having some real fun, so I went back to advertising. And I got a transfer to Bombay. I was working in Delhi for 8 years, I moved to Bombay. And this is the time when I started getting even more interested in photography, and that niggling thing that I too have a voice started actually coming to fore. I got a friend to fund my camera. I got a really small camera, a semi-power shot Canon for 30,000 rupees, and my friend bought it for me, and I would return 5,000 rupees to him every month to pay for the camera. And I started taking pictures of my work in office. This is at 3 o'clock in the morning, working in advertising. As you can see, it was so glamorous. And this was office parties. I started photographing people from my office because it was the access I had. And I had learned over time that you want to start something, you start something with what is close to you, immediately. You start with your family, you start with your friends. You don't delay, you don't overthink it, you just do it. And so I literally, and it was a way to train my eye. I wanted to learn good framing more than technique. Technique will eventually come. You'll understand aperture, you'll understand shutter speed, you'll understand all of that. But framing is not something that can be taught. You have to really teach yourself. What is going to come in the content, these are choices that every photographer is making at every point of time. What is going to be in those 4 frames? What is going to be in those 4 edges between in that frame? This was my first assignment, which was by Verve, and of course it became a part of a series that is a work in continuation, but it's from the Indian film industry. But this is actually Rakhi Sawant, who at that time was a very different person on TV. She still is. She's in your face, she's flamboyant, but I also found her to be extremely hardworking, And I mean, I couldn't walk like that. I don't think anybody in this room can walk the way she walked at that time. She would take 35, 36, 38 shots, repeating every scene and every line. This is merely for TV. But there were also pensive moments that nobody had seen her in, and I was interested in looking at things or seeing things, or even showing things that people had not otherwise seen before, or they wouldn't like to see. And so I would take, so this is one of the pictures that got published in my mind. Things that benefited me and my curiosity for asking random questions for people is that now I have enough material to start a conversation with anybody about anything, except for sports. Well, I don't know much about that. But with him, I knew he was from Jaipur, and I was from Jaipur. I also got to know from a friend that he was a kite flying champion, and so was I. And we connected over kite flying. And it was immediately, we would discuss the kind of kites, the kind of manja that we would use to fly kites, the kind of fights we had. And it was fascinating because he immediately melted. And it was, I could see, he warmed up to me that I could get good pictures. Eventually, you need to fall in love or find something for people to like you. And that's what I mean by saying you have to make them feel good about something that not just tell them how amazing they are, because after a while it's boring, but find something to connect with them, find something that they like, that you like. That is not inauthentic, but you have to find something. And sometimes people are harder to work with. Some people will not let you in. They're caged and they are guarded and they will not let you in. But if you want to take a good photograph, or you want to find a good client, or you want your payments on time, you have to make good friends with people. This was another show I did, which was In Tune for Fame, which was documenting children who would come to sing in competitions in Bombay. And it was a very different time, of course. This is in 2000. When I was learning music, I was also competing for competitions. And at that time, my mother refused to send me to learn music, but see, which is why I became a photographer. But it was, she didn't want to send me out of Delhi, out of Jaipur. And so I got very curious about these kids who were being groomed, they were being styled, they were being given great clothes, they had come to Bombay, of all places, the glamorous city. They would come to compete in competitions, and the kind of confidence they had was quite something. And I remember my way of gaining their confidence was when one of the children asked me if I knew how to sing, and I did. And then I sang, and that's it. I was in that circle. There was no questioning, there was no doubting. There was this basically, she knows what we are all about. Even they're kids, but you need access to take great pictures. You need them to make them, you need to earn their trust. And I did, and it was super because I could get into their bathrooms, their bedrooms, they talk to them about random things, and it was incredible because that access, if you don't have, you're not going to get pictures that you would like pictures. And of course, this is all the time when I was exploring the documentary genre. I was very interested in candid work. I was doing work that was not about saving the world. It was more autobiographical. These were subjects that interested me. I was fascinated with them. I had some reference to my past, and so I started working with that genre quite a bit. This is another series I did, which was women in their homes, and which was how precious a home can be. And over time, while living in Bombay, I come to the conclusion that a lot of women actually spend their money and in being financially independent, and actually spend their money on homes, on decorating their homes. And that was a kind of complete freedom that they felt when they were home. They would not invest so much in an apartment as much as they would invest in their own home, because that's the top security. And that was something I started exploring, the area of women living in their homes, or even if they're living with somebody, how do they negotiate their spaces in the house. This was another series, this was actually amazing. This changed my world completely. I got a commission to travel to Austria for a month and a half to photograph different people living in one city but from different nationalities. So each one of them was a different nationality. The woman on the left is from Korea, The woman in the middle is from Singapore, but she's Tamilian, and the guy on the right is from here. The guy on the right wanted to come back to Bombay with me. He wanted to marry me. The woman on the left was actually laughing all the time, and this picture actually got acquired by the Korean embassy in New Delhi. The woman in the middle was amazing. She was a single mother living in Singapore, Singaporean nationality but a Tamilian, but she ran Austria's largest sex store. And it was when, and this is something that you need to figure out, was that it was incredible how calm, cool and amazing this woman was. There was so much dignity. It was nothing like one would presume or assume, and that is something that eventually all of us and we all have come to that you cannot assume, and that is something that is paid off in the work that I've done after this work. Around the same time is when I found Indian Memory Project. I'll come to this, I just finished with the photography work and then we can go on to the other stuff. Lately, I have been interested in portraiture a lot more than I was in the past, and more to explore concepts not just in documentary form but also in studio form, and to how to use lights. I literally taught myself how to use lights. Thank God for the internet, because YouTube has enough tutorials for us to experiment with. I borrowed lights, I borrowed cameras, and then I would start experimenting with taking portraiture. This is a series that I'm working on now, which is going to be shown at the Houston Photo Festival, but I started by impersonating people that I was curious about. And this is actually my grandmother, whom I never met. She died way before I was born. But I know that she was a Marathi princess, and that she was broke by the time she was married. So it was very, very, very sad. But nonetheless, I wanted to imagine her when she was alive and when she was my age, what she would look like. And from the stories that I'd heard about her, the kind of personality she had, and I would try to imbibe that. It started with my grandmother, and then it went on to other people, which was, this is Gandhari. Again, I imagined if Gandhari walked into my photo studio, what would she be like? And it was, that's it. It was not a very complicated thought. And so this entire series is now in process and is going to be shown at a photo festival next year. And one of the things why I actually started taking pictures of myself was started with boredom, because I couldn't find a subject that I wanted to photograph. I couldn't find, so I just started literally just to kill boredom and to just explore something fun. I started taking pictures of myself. You can be your greatest subject if you have nobody else around. You can, I mean, that's what people do with selfies, right? I mean, because you have nobody else to photograph. You photograph yourself. But selfie is about vanity. This is about personality, and there's a big difference in self-portraiture and selfies. This is the third picture, which was about Mata Hari, and these are all women I have just been intrigued about. I find their lives fascinating. I find them that I want to feel for 5 minutes what they were like, what they were about. And of course the interest in history helps, because I'm hugely interested in history, research. I like to be a detective, I like to search for things, and I'm a bit of a nerd in that matter. So this is one series that I'm working on now. And this is the other, which is that I'm photographing men who dress up as women as a life choice. And I wanted to explore the idea of beauty. What does beauty mean to men who want to embrace this femininity? And I asked them to dress themselves up. No, there's not even a single choice of anything except for the wallpaper after the shoot that I use in post Photoshop to place the wallpaper in the background. But essentially I tell each one of them to dress themselves up in their own ideals of beauty. And how do they feel? How do they, so this is KRVIA, used to be a big makeup artist who calls himself the retired Bond girl. And so he wanted to dress up as the retired Bond girl, so here he is. And he's actually the oldest person in the photo series right now. He's 57 years old. And he did not want to be photographed for a while. He said, I look too old, I'm not too interesting, I'm not attractive. And when he saw some of the other pictures he took, and he sort of called me over to his house, had a chat with me, and then I gained his trust for him to want to get photographed. That this picture was not going to be exploited or put in events or places that did not merit some respect. And my intention was purely to celebrate it because I think they are amazing, and it was just pure awe. I mean, it was nothing else but pure awe. And I like the idea of makeup, and I have to transform your face. I enjoy it. I enjoy dressing up when I have the time and the right event. This is the other one. This is a 19-year-old boy, Tatwa, who decided to dress himself up and wore a wig, got himself a lipstick, got himself a friend actually who could help him out as well. This is Kian. He's a makeup artist as well. It's amazing, the content. And I was very clear, I wanted them to be confrontational. I wanted them to look at the camera so that you cannot look away. And that is something I wanted people to embrace, was that you cannot look away from whether it's their cause, whether it is their life, whether it is their choice, and that they have as much right to celebrate themselves as much as we have to enjoy it. And now I'm going to get into Indian Memory Project, which is something I came up in 2010. I do lots of things, by the way. I design books, I curate shows, I play computer games, I play chess, I dabble in astrology, I do lots of things. I mean, there's enough for me to be entertained for myself, and that's my primary objective, is to keep myself entertained. And then Memory Project was one of those curiosities that in my mind I knew that I could put two subjects together. If I put 20 years of photographs together, I could tell a sense of Bombay. I could tell what was happening in Bombay. And by virtue of being curious enough and wanting to know everything about a photograph, and of course my personal embarrassing questions, the dots connected. All I needed was a photograph, and I have a story, and if I had 20 pictures like that, I have the history of a particular moment, including Bombay. And that was the idea that I decided to start a blog with. And yes, I did sit on it for a year, for a whole year. I sat on it because the idea didn't actually pan through. I wanted to do a book on weddings and earlier, and then it didn't pan through. And the publisher actually, who wanted to publish that book, ran out on me. Eventually, actually, she's been very kind. But it was something that I started a Facebook group, I remember, to put these pictures, asking people to send me pictures of their weddings. And one of the good things about people you'll realize, including yourself, is that we're not very good at taking instructions. Somebody said, in my mind, and then that's when the penny dropped. And see, this is where the bunking class to attend library helps, is that I could categorize things in my head. I could organize them. And all I needed was, instead of an offline space, I needed an online space. And that's what WordPress gave me. WordPress would help me organize it. Yes, there was a big fear of it being called a blog. A lot of people still call it a blog. But it was very clearly an archive, and I was using the blog platform to build a library. And fortunately, blogs do that for you. They can keep you alive and active. I want to show you, this is how it began, literally. Asking people for photographs, people commenting, this is my grandfather, or this is what he did, and then suddenly all of these little words that came up became categories. And the moment they have categories, you've got a library. It's very simple, it's not rocket science. And I wanted to understand the space, the props, the background, the color. This is actually hand-colored in New York, but this picture was taken in the 1920s. There were stories about conversion of faith, marriage, newlywed. What she's holding in her hand is a prop of, she's holding the Bhagavad Gita. So there were so many questions that came into my mind. Clearly, he was from a rich family, which turned out to be true. That he owned a whiskey shop in Lahore. He owned a Rolls Royce, and he was actually one of the sole exporters of whiskey of that region. And there also is a couple who actually had to flee to India after partition, and they lost everything. This man spent the rest of his life living in Karol Bagh, hoping he would go back, and he didn't. He couldn't. So these were all the stories that came up, and so these are the kind of pictures that started coming to Facebook when I did not know what was going on, and the penny dropped much later. Once it dropped, then I knew I could trace all of this. I could, through a story in a photograph, determine the experience, gender roles, economic status, relationships, opportunities, choices, circumstance, migration, nations, borders changing, relationships between family, friends, relatives, professions, education, travel. I mean, this is what I could do. And I stuck with the Indian subcontinent. It was only because something I knew. I mean, it's very easy to do with the history of the world with the same idea. But I didn't have a context that I couldn't read between the lines that I could with the Indian subcontinent. So I stuck with the subcontinent trying to, because I needed to read the lines. I needed to understand people's emotions on the phone. I needed to read between their lines what they were saying and what they were not saying for me to be able to ask more questions. So I did that. I would collect pictures, people would write stories, or I would call them up, interview them, or meet them in person, interview them, find stories. And these were the categories that formed on the right-hand side. These are the tags that formed. And this was in 2010. This was when it was on the WordPress blog, when it was a free blog. And then it's taken a new role now. This is one of the images at the international airport. And it says so much about that time. It says, it'll give you dress, it will give you attire, it'll give you the time, it will give you a story about apartheid, South Africa, traveling, style, religion, culture. So much of it is just one photograph, even without reading the caption. This was a story about, actually, a superb story, and this actually, a story went viral. It traveled, it was viewed around 2 million times. A story that went viral because the gentleman found his grandfather's archives in 2006. Jason, who's a British man, found his grandfather's archives. His grandfather used to be a photographer with Times of India before partition. And in one of the folders in the pictures, he found a separate folder of pictures of a girl and many pictures of her. But he also said, but she wasn't my grandmother. So who's this woman? And then he discovered that actually he did a lot of research. He found out one inscription, found the word Lovedale inscribed on a picture, discovered that Lovedale is a school in Ooty, found out the Ooty alumni, if anybody recognized this woman, turned out to be that they did. Her name was Margaret Mumford, and that her grandfather and Margaret Mumford were lovers when they were 16-year-old in Bombay, when he was a photographer for Times of India. And they parted because of partition. And a lot of things, also the pennies started dropping in my head, is to not realize that partition was not just about India and Pakistan, or Indians and Pakistanis. It was a lot of lives suffered. These people's generations, they had lived here for 7 generations and they had to leave because of partition. 7 generations of a British Empire, for whatever reason they came here. They came with the East India Company, of course. But a lot of different kinds of lives have suffered, have tolerated the pain. But they parted because both families had to flee. And Jason discovered these pictures only in 2006 because his grandfather had hidden pictures away, never mentioned it. Never mentioned it in 50 years that he had a girlfriend in Bombay, an Irish woman called Margaret Mumford. Eventually he actually discovered that Margaret was alive in New Zealand in an old age home, and she passed away actually last year when she was 100 years old. And when she was alive, Jason sent the pictures to her family, and apparently she was shown the pictures of his grandfather. And her first question, she had dementia, but her first question was, is Bertie here? And that is one of the most beautiful stories. I mean, of course, everybody is a sucker for a good love story, but it's a story nonetheless. And these are pictures taken in Juhu, in Bombay. Also, some of them, the other pictures that he's taken are in Ooty. And now these archives are lying in the Library of Birmingham. He's donated his entire archive of his grandfather to the Library of Birmingham in UK. This is another picture, another insight into partition was when I got a story from Pakistan, which was quite unheard of, because usually my experience is that only we whine about partition and we talk about partition and we mourn it, but we do not even think that Pakistan had any pain at all. It's as if it's completely edited out of memory that they had no pain and that they deserved what they got. which is actually completely untrue. There were people just plucked up and sent who lived here for generations. They owned land here, they had jobs here, they had lives here, they have identity and roots here, and they were picked up from Hyderabad. And this picture actually is from Hyderabad in Andhra Pradesh. Hyderabad? Yeah, Hyderabad. And they were sent off to Pakistan without jobs, without money, and a lot of people say it's voluntary. Most of it was not voluntary. You were forced to go, or you were chided to go, or you were taunted to go, or you were threatened to go. And they did. But they reached there without any job, without any money, without any... A lot of people were killed by the time they reached the shores of Karachi. And so these stories actually throw insights into different, poking history from different points of view that you otherwise were not aware of. This is not textbook. And what textbooks will tell you is just one part of the story, and there is no absolute truth. What was interesting in the project was that you get different points of views. You not only get point of view of partition from India, but you also get it from the other sides, which is that everyone has suffered. It's not just one point of view. And there are people who not only suffered, they've also benefited. There are people who were not doing that well in Pakistan who eventually migrated to India and have flourishing businesses. Quality ice cream came up because of partition. Bachelor's ice cream came up because of partition. Nirulas came up because of partition. I mean, these are empires and entities and people who have thrived because every crisis there is an opportunity, every opportunity there's a crisis, and that's the absolute truth. I'm going to take you through the video now and then continue this conversation just to show you. I made this video in 2012, I think, or 13. Just to make people aware of what this project was about. So you get a sense of what it was. But I didn't know that it was the world's first. And now 13 countries are doing this digitized and then used as limited edition prints. Just to be able to see a city differently. And that's what I like what maps can do, is that they can change the way you look at things. If I strip away the usual things, what happens, how do I look at things, and how can I poke at the same idea from different angles, and what is the way to construct it, deconstruct it, break it down, and look at things differently. So now I'm interested in rivers, lakes, and this of course will happen in the project. This is something I curated just this year. Actually, I curated this in 2015 and it was shown this year again in Bombay. Curiosity also means that you have to include and indulge your dark side. And I'm deeply interested in murder, crime, anything that is dodgy, con men, people, exploring people's dark sides, lies, human behavior, body language. These are subjects I am deeply interested in, and I study them quite happily and like a hungry student. And so I decided that I wanted to do a show which was commissioned by the Format International Photography Festival, which was looking at photographs of crime from India and storytelling through them. This was a subject that had not been explored in India before actually, and it's only now that people are beginning to get interested. Internationally, people have worked with forensic evidence and how to look at evidence, how to look at photographs when they're used as pure documents to prove or disapprove a case, or how it's used against people, how it's used to appropriate the law. And I was fascinated by that. And so it was just storytelling. So the picture on the right, these are installation shots of the show in Bombay. The picture on the right is a picture I found in the British archives. Again, nobody mentions these things, so you have to find, if you're hungry and for knowledge, you'll find even God, and I found Rose Brown. Rose Brown murder case is the first murder case ever photographed in Calcutta, in India, in Calcutta, taken in 1868. And her case is fantastically relevant because they still fight about whether it was murder or suicide. If you read the story, you will say it was murder, clearly murder, but at that time, and as you look at law now, things get appropriated, the law has legal loopholes, you also have people who give enough bribes and try and get out of the system. And so it was fascinating because it was the oldest murder case, and also a case that brought about the establishment or the empire to install the first detective department in Calcutta. Before that, there was no detective department in India, ever, for homicides. murder cases, and this was the cause of one. And so these were different cases. There was pictures taken during the Jallianwala Bagh massacre. Why were they taken? For what purposes? There were actually a lot of pictures were taken after for compensation. People had to be given compensation by the British government for all the damages and the injuries they had suffered. There were pictures of, I don't know if you know about the story about Nana Sahib. Nana Sahib is the guy who was the adopted heir to the Peshwa, the last Peshwa of Maharashtra, and he was denied his territory by the British because he was adopted and not a direct heir. Nana Sahib is the man who started the 1857 mutiny by taking Kanpur under siege, and also within a few weeks he disappeared because the British went after him like a banshee. And he disappeared, and until today nobody knows where he was. But of course the British were so angry, and they had put out awards, rewards, privileges that would be given to princely estates to capture Nana Sahib. That a lot of them actually captured strange people and handed them over to the British, saying that he was Nana Sahib. And so a lot of them were photographed, and the series is called the pseudo Nana Sahib because they're all fake Nana Sahibs. And this is a record maintained by the British. It's fascinating the stuff to find. And it caught my attention only because of the title, the pseudo Nana Sahib, and that's when I started digging deeper about this. And it's sometimes these little one-word thing that will set you off onto a trail. And those are clues to finding puzzles. The Alipur bombing, which is the biggest bombing case ever, then the Mahatma Gandhi assassination case, the Nanavati case. Of course, these are pictures. I will not show you that clearly, but there's some of them on my site. And I found documents from 1835 in the National Archives, confessions of Thugis who are confessing to every single crime they have committed, who they have robbed, how much money has been taken. Every single record has been jotted down by officers in the British Empire. It's fascinating, and these are actual documents from 1835. Of course, what was in the exhibition was a reproduction, but the documents, all of them are lying in the National Archives. And this is the close-up of, for example, the Mahatma Gandhi assassination case, which wasn't about Mahatma Gandhi as per se, also to showcase a lack of photography. What happens when you don't have photographs? There was a cop called Inspector Haldipur, who actually was put on a special unit to chase Karkare and Apte, who were the two people who conspired to assassinate Gandhi. And he traveled all the way from Delhi to Bombay chasing these guys because they had run off, because they had news that he had run off to the south. And he would sketch people. Every night he would meet, whenever he would meet a witness, he would come back and he would sketch them because there was no way he could carry a photographer with him. There was no time for them to get the photograph done at that time. It's not even digital. You get to send it to the dark room, you get it developed. It would take around 3 to 4 days for all of this exercise to happen. And so he would come back and he would sketch everybody. And if he wasn't a cop, he would be a caricaturist because I think these drawings are amazing. And these are pictures lying, these are scans and illustrations lying in the family of the Haldipur, whom I came across because of Memory Project, whom I came across because of some common sense. And I just like to explore things. And I think that's it. I think I'm also done. I'm tired of talking. But anyway, so this is all the work I do, and I have a lot of fun with it. My latest project is that I'm working on a book on love letters. And I'm collecting love letters. So if you have love letters in your family, or with grandparents writing to each other, or hidden away, tucked away lovers that your grandparents have had, please let me know. I'll be very, very interested. This is again the first book in the world on found love letters, and it would be great to have that. It's also a way to trace what love has meant in the past, and how there's a big, vast difference in how love was expressed in the kind of language that was used when it was written in letters at the time, and now when you text somebody, there's a big difference in the vocabulary. But anyways, yes. Any questions? Practice every photographs. Please.
when you went to Austria,
Yes.
how did you get in touch with all those people? Like,
Oh, they organize everything. So it was, yeah, that's the best part about working with international clients is that they organize everything, including your to iron your clothes. Yeah, I had two assistants, one Iranian girl and one Austrian girl. And it was their job to find people out, to put out the call, and it was run by the Austrian council, and so it was, people volunteered to be photographed. Any other? You can ask me personal questions.
So what do you think is the place of memory?
What is the place of memory?
Yeah.
Memory is the idea we are here at all.
Like what I'm saying, maybe contemporary memory, like it's something that's constantly changing and changing at a very fast pace. What do you think, like, or what role could memory play? One is, of course, helping one negotiate that change.
Yeah.
I mean, what else do you think it could do?
I don't know, it's constant referencing, right? I mean, even the work we all do, whether they're photographers or artists or musicians, everybody is referencing the past. Everything is about referencing what we know. And somewhere you are connecting some random thought. Memory is something that we've all taken for granted, and we will continue to take it for granted. That it's there, because if you didn't have memory, you would all have amnesia without anything. It would be horrible to be able to survive in a way that you have no memory about anything. But it's also what stays in your mind is who you are, is what I find interesting. What grabs your attention is a reflection of who you are. I am not interested in, neither am I an expert on what memory means to everything or what memory is all about. I am interested in finding information by tapping into people's memory. I think in the end memory is experience, and it's retained experience. And so it helps you chart a future because you can connect the dots of the past. And without that, there is nothing to build on. There is no experience to do. I think we'd be completely useless as people. Even evolution can go back to being a fish, goldfish. It's without it. There is. I don't have an expert or intelligent answer for that. It's needed for anything. I mean, this education that everybody is having will eventually. And the thing is that memory can take you by surprise. I can think of something now that I had experienced somewhere in my childhood that will be of use to me now, which did not matter. There will be things you have no memory of, but your friends will remember because everybody else experienced it that differently, and they retained some information that you didn't. And we have 500 million thoughts a day. That's a lot of data to absorb and to tap into. So the places that it will eventually hopefully tie up into something more productive and something more useful for us, or at least for personally all of us.
How much do you relate to projects like Official Humans of Bombay, or there are many other cities which have projects like this?
Yeah.
So how do you relate, like your project mainly deals with the photographs of the past, whereas these guys stage the photographs and have the stories which, so is there a connection?
Engagement wasn't about just using individual stories. I wanted all of them to connect. So I wanted the micro to become a part of the macro, to eventually make sense, and that you can sense history changing. By world history changing, circumstantial history changing, cultures changing, attitudes, lifestyle, values, beliefs, all of this changing over time. Whereas if it was in New York, it's just about that time and that moment and the experience that they had. It doesn't do, it will touch 500 people or 500,000 people, at that time, but it will only serve a purpose after a while. Because then that somebody will have to tie up those stories to find the macro-ness of it, to make a bigger, larger sense of it.
Can you tell us more about the Aravan transgender festival that you, like what do they do, and like if you were there at the festival?
I wasn't there, but Anita was there, and all I can, what I have heard and read is that they, and of course through the pictures, is that it's a 3-day festival, and it's a story. Lord Aravan is a god is not a god, but he's a character in Mahabharata, and who turns into, I think he was cursed that he turned into a woman at night, and when he turns back into a man, he's a man at night and a woman in the day, and something like that. And then he gets married, and then he dies also after, if he sees the light. And so these people, actually it's fascinating because they spend a lot of money buying gold, jewelry, clothes, wigs, beauty products, beautifying themselves, preparing for this festival. But it's crazy. People get married there. There are people who, it's like a mela. It's a huge, large mela, and the last day of the festival is when they all become widows, and so they break their bangles, and the entire thing is one procession that goes on as well. And Anita is one of those photographers. I like meeting photographers like that, who really works by earning people's, whomsoever she's photographing, earning their trust. And so she spent a lot of time with the community, whether it's the Hijra community or the Kurdi community or gay men or gay women, to actually earn their trust to want to know more and to get better access. I mean, if you don't get access, you will not go get anywhere in life.
Hi, so talking about memory experience, we kind of realize that there are very personal spaces of people, and there are a lot of people that would be very readily, they generally share something like this, but some people would not.
Yeah.
So as a practitioner, then how do you position yourself in a place like this where people kind of, so if you're working with someone who's very readily sharing all this information, would you kind of seek certain legitimacy for the work that you're doing with them? But for a person who kind of completely shut his doors and says that, okay, I'm not going to share anything with you, then how do you position yourself as a practitioner there and seek the kind of legitimacy for the work that you would otherwise in a normal case?
One is that I never force people to reveal themselves. No, I mean, that's even, you cannot force people to do anything you want. But to everyone's benefit, the older people are, the more information they will reveal. And this is especially applicable to people who are senior citizens, because this is something you will realize, and as time passes by, and I'm beginning to understand, of course the Memory Project has helped me a lot as well, is that the older you get, the less relevant you are. And the less relevant you are, the more you want to share your life, because you want to impose your relevance. You want to show the people that you exist. And so a lot of information is revealed, and also the work I've already done, right? So that helps. People already have a sense of what is being done. They already know that it's not going to be disrespected. They already know it's not going to be exploited. So it's a lot of that work, a lot of the work already starts to, I don't need to spell it out for them. And for those who don't, it's, you try a little bit and but you let it go. Because it's still there, enough 1.6 billion people. So, but it's, it does take work to earn people's trust. And it will show. It will show, even if you're making conversation, even if you're just making small talk, it will show. I actually believe people are far more perceptive than they think they know. That you can tell if you can trust somebody, or you can tell if you're not. Of course, you're going to be made fools of as well in your life, but it's it works in my favor to be authentic and to not disrespect. I have no intention of disrespecting it. I'm not going to last very long in any business or in any career if I'm going to use people's information to exploit them. So as long as you are, if one door closes, you go to another. Anyone else?
Actually, I want to ask you about the new work that you're doing.
I can't hear you, sorry.
About the new work you're doing,
Yeah.
the portrait of yourself. That I'm asking if there's any relationship that you think with the form of that portrait. Why that particular format for that portrait of yours, in which you're dressing up, which is this kind of this thing. And what relationship do you think it has with your other work, which it does? And you also made a comparison between that and the selfie, which I would like to hear more about. The difference between.
There is a slower process in a self-portrait, which is making you, or making me think at least, and I've seen a lot of other people who do work with self-portraiture. Is that there is a thought that is gone before the picture, there is a thought that has happened after the picture, there's an entire process that is going on while you are taking the picture. And I enjoy that far more than a selfie, which is literally momentary, and it's also a reflection of you. You're actually not seeing yourself accurately at all. And the same thing happens when you're looking in the mirror. You are a constant sense of self is actually a reflection, which doesn't make any sense at all unless you. And I was not. And for me, selfies are more about vanity. They are meant to show how pretty or amazing you are, or what a great time you're having. And in self-portraiture, for me, I think it's about really wanting to understand yourself. That's what my own engagement with it is. Or I want to see how far I can extend it. How far can I push my own identity into different places? And it's a process. The format was something that I enjoy. I mean, I'm not that into. Instagram is one which has always, of course, reminded us of Polaroids. But I am interested in full format pictures. And I wanted the pictures to have a black background because I literally wanted to see how these personalities emerge out of darkness, because for me the past is unknown. I mean, so is the future. But I like to believe that the future is brighter. But I like the idea of it emerging out of the black, and I think it's because it's something that I completely didn't know about, and also because it started with my grandmother. And once the format sort of was set in place, it looked good to me. Aesthetically, it was very, very pleasing to me. I enjoyed it completely. So once it was done, I didn't think about it that much after. Did I answer your question?
And the other thing that because the kind of material that you've been working with the studio portraits.
Yeah.
That I was just wondering because they are also this kind of portraits.
Yeah.
Which are composed, and so I was wondering whether and you're also dressing up.
Yeah.
In some sort of I don't know whether it's like historical or.
Yeah, because history can trigger my imagination. I can completely, happily live in a movie in the past, and I don't live it, fortunately, in a negative way. I actually use it for me to imagine things, and I've always been that person. It helps me do that. I'm interested in what is not being said. I'm interested in what is not being shown. I'm interested in what is being hidden. I'm interested in secrets, and so all of that will amplify my imagination, and I like that it does that, and at least it does it for me.
That's just going on. But in the portrait, you treat the photograph as almost like an evidence, like the way you read it.
It's the impersonation.
No, the other one.
Which
in
other?
the memory project,
Yeah.
photographs, you treat them as if they all have.
Yeah, because they
story.
yeah.
But in the photograph, I do.
I do.
Yeah. So I was just wondering why that was why. It's like that. Is it about the more about the self and your?
It is about, it's the self, it's the, I was talking to Mansi, we were talking about the word performance. It's about just my own, I just want to see her, or I just want to just see this woman, I don't want to see any other material around her. And it's just, versus it being a document, it's not a documentation, I mean it eventually may be used as a document if it is really that great enough to last that long. But for me, it's a process of just about that person and to see myself in that role.
Yeah, I was. It's interesting that the way you were personalizing the data and in terms of image and information with it. But I would continue with what Sonal is asking. Is that how do you deal with the randomness that you would always want to see in the photograph? You know, because it's difficult because every photograph is also a document. So it's not just about the info. It's not just about, you don't want people to see for A or B or C reason only, because there'll be time connect the story which you're going to tell, but other ways to see that. So within that performative mode, or let's say that you become someone, but you also are not fully that. So while you're photographing, when you're constructing a photograph, you're also building an archive in a way, like a parallel. So I'm saying that how it's very important for when you're building things, it's very important that you want that chance or that randomness to come, which you do not know fully. So if the result is like well constructed, I think it's very boring. Like it's in a way you know it already. What am I going to see more in that? So how do you deal with that space of seeing and construct, like seeing the space between seeing and actually the photograph?
I haven't articulated that as yet, but there is a gap between the entire process for me starts when I've just imagined what that person even dresses up like or would dress up like. There is also when I am, like you rightly said, when you are that but you're not that, and which is why I actually chose to stick with the word impersonation versus saying that I am that person. We were talking about labels, I don't call it performance because actually I'm not performing, but I'm literally just imagining a story in my mind. And the process begins, the picture starts forming in my head. Now,
well, it's just, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but performance for me is, when I say performance, is always that unknown space.
That
unknown space.
So there is an internal performance going on. There is a picture, for example, of taken of Noor Jahan. At that time she was Mehrulisa, but I've decided to call her Mehrulisa and not Noor Jahan because for me it's the time just before she met Jahangir in the garden. It's not like she was already the queen or not already the queen. And so there are these stories that I totally tell myself. Now, how I deal with it is that I literally fill it up with with the story. I will find some way to get comfortable with that idea. And I'm also very aware that I am impersonating, that I am not that person, but I am trying to fool people into believing that I am that person. And that's the game I like to play. And it's not very cerebral as much as it is a game that I am playing with myself. And that is what I enjoy, the game. It's tricking myself, it's tricking somebody else. If somebody in the room, to trick them, which is 90% of the cases, there's not been anyone else. I remember my mother saw me photographing my grandmother because she was carrying the saris and the jewelry when she was visiting. And she had a hearty laugh. She was like, this is too funny, and it was like actually we enjoyed the moment of that impersonation with another person, which was fun.
But did you ever see your grandmother in your did you ever see your grandmother with your image in your dreams ever?
No. No.
It's
I only got
purely the reference and
Yeah.
the story. So I think that space is filled quite a lot with the story.
It is the story, but there are some people I have seen. Like Mata Hari's pictures I have seen. I have seen one of my grandmothers. But I've never seen them in their youth. Because I'm seeing myself in that time when they're younger. They're not older women. I'm not trying.
Never dream of them.
No. My one grandmother was always bombed on some drug. So the other one was dead. And these are different characters. And also it's actually, it's just being able to imagine yourself as another person. And I find that process interesting. And because I specifically went with the word impersonation because I'm fascinated with people trying to con people trying to, you're lying, it's a behrupia, no? That you're just trying to fool and trick people into it. And I like that process of the trickery. And that I'm actually tricking myself. And none of these women looked anything like me. But I'm pretending that I'm that person. So it's not that cerebral for me actually, but it is a game. It's entertainment.
Hi. So my question was pertaining to the on-site portrait photography that you do. So in case, like the way you mentioned, you established trust with the person. So initially, when you probably started off and you clicked in, say, public environments, how do you deal with questions like, okay, so what is it for? Or even, so if you're doing a street photography as opposed to a portraiture, you don't have that, because generally it's always happening where you feel that you're probably infringing on their privacy or something by just clicking, because as soon as you tell them you're taking a picture, their body language will probably change, or you won't get them in their original, like the way they are in their surrounding or their context.
Yes.
So how do you deal with that? Because once you speak to them, they're going to be very camera conscious.
It's very rare that I photograph people right then. One is that I don't really do street photography. I do it actually, sometimes when I do it just purely to train my eye. It's not necessarily that I'm creating something, oh my god, amazing. It's, in fact, a lot of it is quite average. I like to earn trust. So if it takes me, if I'm going to be photographing you tomorrow, I will meet you in advance. I also want you to trust me. So I will find different ways for me. I will reveal things about myself. And that's one of the best ways to earn somebody's trust, is to reveal something about yourself. And it's very rare. Sometimes you get only an hour and a half to do a shoot, right? But that's something that you have to find through conversation. It's like photographing Irfan Khan, when you have nothing in common, actually, at all. I had to find kite flying as something that. So you research people you're photographing. You do some background checks, you do Google them, you know what they're up to. And then you find some common ground, eventually at that point of time. You just don't walk into, I don't walk into spaces without knowing what I'm getting into. Even if you just have 1 hour. And in that 1 hour, you have to find a way to fall in love with that person or like that person, otherwise you won't get that picture. Even you're welcome to hate them afterwards. But pretend that you like them, you're interested, because if you are interested, it will show. It's very simple. There's a very simple math to it.
Thanks a lot, Anusha, for coming. That was a very elaborate session that we had. Unexpectedly, and lots of people turned up, so thanks a lot. We really want such conversations to happen more in college. So, hope to see you
Again, are you already there?
Yeah, I'm taking an elective. People have already in person themselves. You're most welcome to come. Get yourself photographed.